Hello, hello, hello. How are my people doing today? Hope everybody's having a wonderful Monday. As always, just give a couple minutes, get set up, and see you all gonna come join the party. I know it's not my normal day, so I don't expect to be a whole lot here, but we're gonna work with what we got as always. Oh dang, look like I'm about a minute behind. I apologize, y'all. Just killing it. Devil been working on me, trying to keep y'all away from me. That's what it is. I'll just give it a couple minutes as I set up. Just focus on my big bald head. Oh, move the chair out some. There we go. Oh. Hello, whoever you is. I can't see who it is just yet. No bubbles popped up, but see somebody's here. Appreciate you being here. Grab my stuff. All right. Down there. That's there. If y'all are here watching, you want to follow along, of course, it's going to be in 1 Samuel chapter 15. Still working our way through chapter 15. Looking at obedience and blessings or disobedience and curses. I think this has been a good series. I hope y'all have been enjoying it. It's been helping me, and I'm hoping it's helping y'all. In my spot there. Make sure this is good. It always looks a little crooked to me for some reason. I don't know why. Shine. I actually shined it up myself, y'all. My son got me some clippers for Father's Day. The shave my head, and I've been shining my own self up. Got me looking pretty spiffy. All right, well, it's a few minutes after now, a couple minutes after now, so I'm going to go ahead and get started. Thank y'all for being here tonight. I know it's not my normal night, so if you're going to be here tonight, I definitely appreciate you being here tonight. I know it's not my normal night. I do apologize for yesterday. Y'all know I got a new job it's been about 6-7 weeks now, but I'm still training and learning everything. And the guys that was doing the job before me that I'm doing, it wasn't part of their job. I mean, it was a part of their job, but it wasn't their actual job. So now that I'm here, they're kind of getting caught up on doing their own job. So they don't have a lot of time to spend with me to kind of show me the ropes kind of thing. So when they do have the time, I have to take it. Yesterday, he had some time. One of the guys had some time to spend some significant amount of time with me to do some training. So I had to go ahead and take it. And so I apologize, but that's why I'm here tonight instead of yesterday. And if anybody was waiting, if I messed up anybody tonight, messed up your Monday because you didn't get to hear me, I do apologize. But I appreciate y'all for being here tonight. So as always, I'm Brother John Stewart, minister of the Lost Sheep Ministries, here to bring you a lesson tonight. Sponsored by River Lake Baptist Church, here to bring you a lesson tonight. And again, we've been going through a series called Obedience and Blessings or Disobedience and Curses. And tonight we're going to go through part 9 of the series. Part 9, man, we'll be finishing up a little bit. We just got maybe a couple more lessons on it. But there's part 9 of the series. So if you're watching this and you're like, man, part 9, I haven't even watched part 1. You can always go back on my YouTube page and watch it, or you can scroll back up and down my Facebook page, because I never really delete them. So again, Brother John, on behalf of the Lost Sheep Ministries, sponsored by River Lake Baptist Church, here to bring y'all a message tonight. So again, the message we're covering is in 1 Samuel 15. If you got your Bibles out and you want to read along with me, we've been doing this series for quite a few weeks. It's the first lesson. Like I said, I've done several points over the years since I've been doing this. I've done several points on obedience and disobedience, but I've never had a lesson specifically about obedience and disobedience. Like I said, I've done several points. They've come up in topics that we've discussed before as little points, but this whole lesson is specifically about being disobedient, being obedient and disobedient, the advantages of being obedient and the disadvantages of being disobedient. Now, that's what we've been covering for the last few weeks. Like I said, this is part 9. So for the last 8 weeks, and today going to be 9 weeks, this is what we've been covering in our lesson in this series. So last week I gave you point number 13. So far we have 13 points in this lesson that I've different talking points in this lesson that I've discussed with you. And last week was point number 13, and it was talking about a curse of disobedience. And the curse that we talked about of disobedience that we talked about last week was the curse of greed. And we just talked about how greed is one of the curses that comes along with being disobedient. We talked about how a lot of stuff that we do out of greed. Gotta have money, want the biggest and the baddest, and all that. And a lot of times we let those things, our greed to have more and more and more material things, take us away from the Lord. And I had several examples I went through. I talked about Gehazi, which was one of Elijah's servants, and how his greed got him in trouble. And I just talked about how gave several other examples of how people's greed and our greed as a whole has gotten us in trouble before, and why we need to avoid greed, because it is one of the curses of disobedience. So again, I'm not going to go into the details of that lesson. If you want to hear that lesson, if it sounds like something that interests you, you didn't get to hear that lesson last week. Again, you can always just scroll back up and down my Facebook page, because I never delete the lessons, or you can go to my YouTube page, because I always post them on there. I try to post them before I do my next lesson, so that one from last week is already on my YouTube page as well. So with that being said, we're going to talk about tonight's lesson. I want to do tonight is a very important point. Like last week, I did only one point, which is why I just had one little quick review point. Because, I had some things going on, and plus it was an important point. I didn't want to rush it. And tonight, it's not necessarily that I had things going on. It's just that it's a really good point, and it's something that's near and dear to my heart. And we'll see once we get into the lesson what I'm talking about. Is actually this point right here is something that I dealt with personally. Everything I talk about, I dealt with personally, but this is a big one. This one was actually part of my testimony, and I ain't gonna get too far ahead of myself, because it's gonna come up as we go through the lesson. I'm gonna bring that up. But if you know me, and once you hear the point, if you've heard my testimony before, you know exactly what I'm talking about. So this one is near and dear to my heart, and this is something that I feel a majority of us deal with on a regular basis as Christians. And I think a lot of, because of this mindset that we have, it keeps a lot of us from having a good, close Christian walk with the Lord, good, close walk with the Lord. So we're going to look at that tonight. And that's why instead of doing 2 points and kind of sliding it and just rushing through this next point just to get to the other one, I'm going to go ahead and do one. I'm not reverting back to only doing 1 point at a time. I mean, if it happens, it happens, but I'm going to try to still get to 2 and 3 points at a time. But this one tonight, I did want to spend some time on, because like I said, it's near and dear to my heart, something that I struggle with. And like I said, it'll come up later. I don't want to get too far ahead of myself. So the point is going to come from, we've been covering for the last few weeks, we've been covering 1 Samuel 15 verses 10 through, what is it? 10 through 22 is what we've been covering. All of the last 3 or 4 lessons. Let me see, point 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, and 14. All going came from those that set up that cluster of verses. So I'm not going to read all of them at 10. When I read tonight, I'm going to start here as, boom, boom, boom. I'm going to start at verse 13. I'm going to read 13 to 22. And this is going to be the last point that come out of this little cluster. And I remember I told y'all a few weeks ago that there's going to be several points that come out of this cluster. So the one tonight is going to be the last one to come out of this little cluster. And then we're going to move on to the next few points in the series. So if you got your Bibles open, I'm in 1 Samuel chapter 15. I'm going to start reading at verse 13. And of course, I always like to just say, I'm reading out the New Living Translation. If you're reading your Bible and your Bible's not saying the same thing that I'm saying, and you wonder why what's going on, is because I'm reading out the New Living Translation. I am a wholehearted King James believer. I always like to say that. I do believe that, but I like to do my lessons out the New Living Translation because it's for the lost sheep. It's for people that don't necessarily have that close relationship with the Lord just yet, so they might not understand. So I want to make sure you get everything I'm putting down, if you know what I'm saying. So with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and start reading what the Lord tells us in 1 Samuel chapter 15, verses 13. So starting verse 13 through 22. So in verse 13 it says, "Now when Samuel finally found him, Saul greeted him cheerfully. 'May the Lord bless you,' he said. 'I have carried out the Lord's command.' 'Then what is all the bleating of sheep and lowing of cattle out here?' Samuel demanded. 'It is true the army spared the best of the sheep and cattle,' Saul admitted, 'but they are going to sacrifice them to the Lord your God, and we have destroyed everything else.'" And of course, we talked about there wasn't, that's only partial obedience, and partial obedience is still disobedience. We kind of talked about that. So then he said, "Then Samuel said to Saul, 'Stop and listen to what the Lord told me last night.'" "What was it?" Saul asked. And of course, that goes back to our point number 12, where we talked about how, one of the curses of disobedience is not being able to hear the Lord. Then in verse 17 it said, "And Samuel told him, 'Although you may think little of yourself, are you not the leader of the tribes of Israel?'" And right there, I had you write King James Version, because it says, in the King James Version, it says, "When thou was little in thine own sight." In other words, when you was humble, I made you head of the tribes of Israel. But now you got prideful, and that's why he did what he did, because his pride had swelled up. So then it says, "The Lord has anointed you king of Israel, and the Lord sent you on a mission and told you, 'Go and completely destroy the sinners, the Amalekites, until they are all dead.' So why haven't you obeyed the Lord? Why did you rush for the plunder and do exactly what the Lord said not to do?" So again, we talked about that's where the greed came in. That was one of the curses. They was greedy for the plunder, which is why they didn't obey the Lord. So we talked, I kind of correlated that to the greed into the curse, one of the curses of disobedience. Then verse 20 says, "But I did obey the Lord," Saul insisted. "I carried out the mission he gave me. I brought back King Agag, but I destroyed everyone else." But the Lord said destroy everybody. So it's still partial disobedience. He said, "Then my troops brought in the best of the sheep and cattle and plunder to sacrifice to the Lord your God in Gilgal." But Samuel replied, and this is going to be the text. Here go the text words right here. He said, "But Samuel replied, 'What is more pleasing to the Lord, your burnt offerings and sacrifices, or your obedience to his voice? Obedience is far better than sacrifice. Listening to him is much better than offering the fat of rams.'" That's it right there. That's it. So I'm going and pray. We're going to jump into this lesson tonight. Dear Lord and Heavenly Father, thank you so much for watching over tonight. Thank you so much for this day. I do hate I couldn't get to share your word in my usual time yesterday, Lord. But I'm glad. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to do it tonight. And I pray that if everybody that was hoping to hear it yesterday will still get the opportunity to hear it tonight, Lord, whether they watch it live or they have to watch it later on once I post it on my page. But either way it go, I'm hoping this is a great lesson, a great point. It's something that I've had to deal with personally in my life. And honestly, once I understood this concept, my work for you really, truly got started, Lord. So I'm praying that you give me the wisdom tonight to do it some justice, to bring out this truth, to help people see how important it is for them to understand this concept that I'm going to share with them about disobedience tonight, Lord. I pray you send your spirit down upon my heart, and to give me the boldness and confidence to speak these words with boldness, Lord, so that the others may hear these words and they may take these words into their heart and use them to come under conviction and be closer to serving to you. And I pray you send your spirit down upon the hearts of those that listen to these words, and let a seed be planted in their hearts to give them to want to understand how important it is to be obedient, Lord. We ask you just continue to watch over us, continue to guide this session as always, and give me the strength, fill me with your spirit, but more importantly, help us all be closer to you once we leave this session than we were once we started, because we were here and we got into your word. Thank you so much for all you've done and given, and I pray you let these words speak to our hearts tonight, and we say this prayer in your wonderful Son, Jesus' name, amen. All right, give me one more sip of this H2O. And we'll get started. All right, so again, our text verse is going to come from kind of really the verse 21 through 22. where he said, then my troops brought in the best of the sheep and cattle and plunder to sacrifice to the Lord your God in Gilgal. But Samuel replied, what is more pleasing to the Lord? Your burnt, what is more pleasing to the Lord? Your burnt offerings and sacrifices, or your obedience to his voice? Obedience is far better than sacrifice. Listening to him is much better than offering the fat of rams. So point number 14 in this lesson, this is not necessarily one of the curses of disobedience, but this is a mindset of disobedience that we so often play with or get trapped in. So point number 14, like I said, is more of a mindset of disobedience, but this is something that you have to understand about disobedience. Number 14 is this. Your sacrifices would not cancel out your disobedience. No, get it. Listen to what I'm saying here. Your sacrifices will not cancel out your disobedience. You know what I'm saying? This point right here should touch anybody that's watching this video. This point right here should touch you. You know, this should touch your heart right here. This should touch your heart tonight. And this should bring some kind of conviction in your life about this. You know what I'm saying? Because I think at some point, like I said, every single person, especially us Christians, we're bad about doing this. I think every single one of us at some point in our life, even maybe before we became Christian, you know what I'm saying, we tried to play this game or run game on God. You know what I'm saying? This game of, well, instead of doing what I know I'm supposed to be doing, instead of doing what I know the Lord told me to do, I'm going to do what I want to do, but I give a little something to the Lord. You know what I'm saying? I give a little something. I'm going to do what I want to do, and I'm going to give a little something for the Lord, and hopefully that'll make up for it. We've all done that. We've all done that. You say you ain't done that, then you're just a better man than me, but I think you're lying. You know what I'm saying? We've all done that. Instead of doing what we know we're supposed to be doing, you know what I'm saying, what we know the Lord is commanding us to do, we'll do it. We'll do what we want to do, and then we'll just throw in some tithe or you know, go to extra church service or do something like that, sacrifice our time somewhere to try to make up for that stuff that we know we weren't supposed to be doing. We've all done that at some point, and I'm gonna tell you something. If that's your mindset, if that's the way you think, instead of doing what I'm supposed to be doing, I'm just going to do what I want to, and then I just, you know, make some kind of sacrifice to the Lord. If that's your mindset, I want to, you know what I'm saying, if that's your mindset and that sacrifice is going to make up for the wrongdoing, if that's your mindset, I'm here to let you know tonight that you are sadly mistaken. If you think that good is going to outweigh that bad, if you think that sacrifice is going to outweigh your disobedience, I'm going to let you know right now, you are sadly mistaken. But see, that's what everybody wants to do. That's what everybody wants to do, instead of just simply doing what you know the Lord commands us to do. You know what I'm saying? Like our relationship with God is simple. Our life can be simple. All you got to do, y'all have heard me say this a million times, just do what you know you're supposed to be doing. If you do what you know you're supposed to be doing, your life will be simple. Your life is simple. It is really simple, but we always want to do what we want to do. You know what I'm saying? Matter of fact, we'll go out of our way to do something he didn't tell us to do, instead of just doing what he told us to do. It's so funny. And I say this is near and dear to my heart, because I can remember so many times I've done that in my life. And I know y'all have do. You go out of your way to do some extra stuff that the Lord didn't tell you to do, instead of just simply doing the things, you know what I'm saying, that he told you to do. You know what I'm saying? We'll travel 1,000,000 miles. You know what I'm saying? We'll travel 1,000,000 miles to try to appease God, instead of just traveling the 1 mile God told us to travel. You know, and we all get caught up in it. That's why I said I didn't want to rush this lesson tonight, because I know y'all have done it before. I've done it before. You know what I'm saying? I really done it because we always feel like, okay, yeah, I know God want me to do this, but I'm gonna do this thing, you know what I'm saying? And he's gonna help so many people if I do this thing. Even though God didn't tell me to do this thing, I'm just gonna do this thing, and it should make up for that thing that I didn't do. And that is the wrong mindset to have. You know what I'm saying? Like I said, we'll travel 1,000,000 miles to avoid traveling the 1 mile that the Lord told us to travel. We'll travel 1,000,000 miles to do something else he didn't tell us to do, but we won't travel the 1 mile to do the thing he told us to do. And it's so insane. Why do we do that? And the reason why is because 9 times out of 10, that 1 mile he told us to travel is going to take us out of our comfort zone. And y'all have heard me talk about that before, you know, that with the comfort zone, that 1 mile he said travel, you know, say, yes, it's only 1 mile, but it's 1 mile outside my comfort zone. You know what I'm saying? That 1 mile might have you going somewhere, you know what I'm saying, that you don't want to go, doing some things that you really don't want to do. And that's why we don't travel that 1 mile, but we'll go 1,000,000 miles, you know what I'm saying, to do something that God didn't tell us to do because it keeps us in our comfort zone. And see, and that's why most people, if you call yourself a Christian, you know what I'm saying, y'all heard me talk about this several times, so y'all know what I'm saying. If you call yourself a Christian, if you say that you've had a day where you accepted Jesus Christ your Savior, you should be a soul winner. Y'all know I'm always talking about soul winning. I'm always talking about soul winning, you know what I'm saying, because I hope y'all will, come under conviction about it and start doing it yourself. But if you call yourself a Christian, then you should be a soul winner. You're supposed to be telling other people about Jesus. That was one of the last things he commanded before he's sitting up into heaven. Go out to the highways and hedges, compel them to come in. He's talking about coming into his kingdom. You know what I'm saying? The only way they're going to come into his kingdom if they know him as Savior. So you're supposed to be going out there, taking that gospel to others. But a lot of people don't go soul winning because I'm not going to lie to y'all. It's awkward. You know what I'm saying? A lot of times it can be uncomfortable. I mean, because you just randomly knocking on people's doors talking about, do you know Jesus? You know what I'm saying? It is awkward and it is uncomfortable. But it's commanded that we do it. It's commanded that we do it. So we'll do everything else, but we won't go soul winning. Something that's commanded, but we'll do all kind of other things that's not commanded and think that's going to appease God. We think that's going to make up for that the sacrifice of going that 1,000,000 miles of doing this thing that he didn't tell us to do is going to make up for us not doing the one thing he did, traveling 1 mile to do the thing he told us to do. You see what I'm saying? We all do that. We all do that. You know what I'm saying? One of the biggest reasons that we travel that 1,000,000 mile. You know what I'm saying? One of the biggest reasons we go that 1,000,000 miles. Hold on, I got to roll down. Oh, okay, yeah, okay, that's what it is. So another one of the reasons we go that extra effort and go to 1,000,000 miles instead of going that 1 mile. Another thing is one of the biggest reasons why we won't go that 1 mile is because in order to do that, to travel that 1 mile, a lot of times you have to give up some things. And that's why I couldn't read my own right. You got to give up some things. You know what I'm saying? You're going to have to stop doing some things that you enjoy doing. And you're going to have to start doing some things you don't enjoy doing. In other words, you're going to have to start being obedient. And that's what it's all about, just being obedient. And we don't realize a lot of times if we just be obedient, it'll be less work. We make it so much harder. We make ourselves, that's the irony of the human existence. You know what I'm saying? We make it so much harder on ourselves by just not being obedient, by being disobedient. You know what I'm saying? We see it with our kids. Just about everybody on here have kids. You know what I'm saying? We see it with our kids. You know, my kids, I grew up in North Memphis, you know what I'm saying? Went through all kind of crazy stuff. Y'all know my testimony, know what I went through. So I'm thinking, oh man, I can just give all this knowledge that I learned by doing this, going through this horrible situation to my kids, and they should have a great life because they can avoid all my pitfalls. But guess what? They went and did everything I told them to do, they should be doing, they didn't do. And everything I told them they shouldn't do is what they did. You know what I'm saying? And it's crazy. I'm like, man, y'all life. And now that they're adults, they come like, oh man, I could have had something. Yes. All you had to do was listen. All you had to do was be obedient. So that's why I say, being a father, guys out here want to be God and stuff like that. I think being a father is the closer you get to being God, because I'm not that I fully understand God and I'm saying God, but I can kind of understand where God is coming from. Like, especially when you see how he was punishing Israel and Judah, and he punishes people for being disobedient, you can understand, because like, man, I showed you there's no excuse for what you did. I showed you everything you should have done. I told you, I gave you the blueprint, the Bible. I gave you the Bible. I gave you the blueprint. I told you what to avoid. I told you what to stay away from, and you did it anyway. You know what I'm saying? That's how it is with my kids. Like, man, I told you what to avoid. I told you what to stay away from, and you did it anyway. Yes, your life could have been simple. All you had to do was obey, and you got to understand, if you're not going to obey, you'll never truly be able to do God's work, which is why I told you I wanted to get into this lesson and take my time with this lesson on obedience, because you'll never be able to really truly serve the Lord if you can't be obedient. And you know what I'm saying? And I'll never forget, and this is what I told you, I didn't come up, I'll never forget the first time that I got confronted with this concept. And it was that confrontation with this very concept. And that's why I say this is near and dear to my heart. That's why I didn't want to rush it. It was confrontation. I got confronted with this concept, and it was that confrontation that literally changed the trajectory of my life. Because 2 days later, after I got confronted with it, the Lord called me to preach. You know what I'm saying? How you doing, Miss Alicia? Glad you're able to make it in here. I hope you're doing well. You and Leo doing well. So again, if y'all know my testimony, I'm not gonna go through my whole testimony, but y'all know I'm out here, selling dope and doing stuff. Had got away from God, had been hadn't been in church or really serving God, or even thinking about God for about 5 or 6 years at this point in time. So, and I'm not going to go through the whole testimony. Y'all have heard it before. If you haven't heard it, go back and watch the video. But the point that brought everything to a halting point or whatever, the way I was living my life on, and it brought my life to that peak was, like I said, it was a Friday. I never forget, it was a Friday the 13th. And I was at work, and I was playing cards, and I was just having a good, good old, I was just in a good mood. And I never forget, I was talking to this white guy I worked with, his name was Randy. And he just tell like I was in a good mood. He was like, "What's going on?" And I told him like, man, my life's going great right now. I like, man, I got this and this going on. And of course I was selling dope, and he knew I sold drugs. I was like, man, and he said, "Well, man, you selling drugs?" I said, "Yeah." I said, "But I think God want me to sell drugs." And of course he bust out laughing. He told me, "Man, that was the dumbest stuff I ever heard." He said, "But why would you think that?" He asked me, and I said, "Man, because I was like, by me selling drugs, I've been able to, I adopted my younger brother. I got my girl, haven't had to work. I'm taking care of all 3 of my kids because I had 3 kids at the same time." I said, plus the kids that selling for me, that sell for me, all these guys, when they started selling for me, they was dropouts in high school. You know what I'm saying? They was dropouts in high school, and they was, they was on a path to nothingness, and now they're in high school getting 4.8 GPAs, applying to college, scoring higher on the ACT than I scored. You know what I'm saying? So I'm like, man, because of these drugs, I've been able to help so many people because I've been selling these drugs for the last couple of years or whatnot. And I said, I just feel that's what God want me to do. Because at the time, when I was telling the reason I was in such a good mood, because I kept on finding better drugs at cheaper prices kind of thing. So this dude, Randy, he said, man, everything, he said, that all sounds good. He said, but I'm going to tell you something. He said, God is not nowhere near that. I said, why you say that? He said, God is not going to be with somebody that's selling drugs, because if you're selling drugs, you're being disobedient. Even though you're helping people, you're being disobedient. And I never forget, I told him I was arrogant. I was like, well, if me selling dope is going to get these young kids to having a better life and me being able to get my family a better life, then I'll make this, if me selling dope is going to make my kids have a better life and get these young boys to have a better situation, then guess what? I'll make that sacrifice. And Randy said, that sounds good. He said, but I'm going to tell you something. He said, this is how I know God is not in it. And he gave me that line right there. And then when he said, because God likes obedience over sacrifice. He said, no, God would rather have obedience over sacrifice. He says, so yeah, you sacrificing and you putting your life on the line. You putting your, your freedom on the line to provide your family and sell these drugs for these kids. He said, but in reality, you're doing that for yourself. You're not doing that for God. He said, God likes obedience over sacrifice. And of course, I was like, man, I don't want to hear that, blah, blah, blah. Again, I was arrogant and all that. I don't want to hear all that. But that line, that particular line, that I said, this is near and dear to my heart, it stuck with me because it was my weekend off, and that particular line stuck with me. I appreciate that. Long glad you're here, man. I appreciate that. I try to keep it up. Long as the Lord put breath in these lungs, I keep it going. I appreciate you being here tonight. But that line stuck with me, and it was my weekend off, and it stuck with me all that weekend. So that was Friday the 13th. That next day on the 14th is when I wrote the song God's Will, because I was under conviction because of that very line right there. That line brought me under conviction, and I was under conviction all day Friday because I worked third shift. So I got out like Friday morning at 7. I was under conviction all day Friday about it. And I was under conviction all day Saturday, and y'all know the story. That's when I wrote the song God's Will on the way to go buy bullets. And then that Saturday, so I was under conviction all day Saturday, and then that Sunday night is when the Lord called me to preach. You know what I'm saying? And it's because of that line right there, because it brought me under conviction. It got my heart to a place where I really started looking at what I was doing and while I was doing it. And that's why I said this letter is so important. I didn't want to, because that line, when that guy gave me that, and it was so funny because I hadn't read that in the Bible before. And when I finally, after I gave my life to God and started reading my Bible and I came across that, I was like, oh, that's it right there. You know what I'm saying? That's it. And there's a couple of places in the Bible where that line is mentioned as well. But it's so true. God wants obedience over sacrifice. Your sacrifices is not going to make up your good deeds. Is not going to make up for the bad that you're normally doing, especially if you know you're doing it. You know you're doing stuff you're not supposed to be doing. Your little good deeds because you just, going to church every now and again, or throw a homeless person a couple of dollars every now and again, or feed them. That is not going to make up for your disobedience when you're knowingly out here doing things that you know you're not supposed to be doing. You know what I'm saying? Matter of fact, like I said, it was 2 days after I finally got that concept. It was 2 days after I finally understood it. When he confronted me with that. 2 days later, I finally understood that the Lord called me to preach. And of course, a day or so after that is when I accepted the offer to preach. And I've been harassing y'all about Jesus ever since. It's been over 20 years now. But that whole weekend of activities that changed my life. It started with that dude hitting me with that concept there. You know what I'm saying? Helping me, hitting me with the concept or bringing the concept to mind. Because like I said, I hadn't read the Bible at that time. I hadn't read my Bible, so I had never heard it. But when he said, yes, that sacrifice is good. And that's basically what Samuel saying to Saul. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, what does the Lord want? He don't want the sacrifices. He wants you to listen to him. And that's basically the exact same thing that Raina was saying to me. You know what I'm saying? Like, man, yeah, that sounds good, but God wants your obedience over your sacrifice. And that line right there, man, that started the whole my whole spiritual awakening, brought me under conviction, and man, changed the way I saw things. And when it started changing the way I saw things, the Lord said, okay, he's ready. And he gave me that call. And of course, I answered that call. And man, it's been a wonderful ride ever since. You know what I'm saying? So you see, I was caught up. I'll say all that to say this. I was caught up in playing that same game. You see what I'm saying? I was caught up in playing that same game. I knew what I was doing was wrong. I knew sitting in drugs was wrong. Yes, it was helping people, but at the same time, I still knew I was wrong. And I wasn't doing it. And if I'm being real, I wasn't doing it just because it was helping. I just enjoyed it. I enjoyed the lifestyle. I don't know if you ever sold drugs before, you know what I'm saying? But it's quite a lifestyle. It's just like, you know what I'm saying? When you see the rappers and the superstars and all those stuff, it's a lifestyle that they get addicted to. And that's why a lot of them lose their mind when they like one hit wonders or they lose their money or fame and they end up killing themselves because it's a lifestyle. And that's what it was. If I'm really honest with myself, yes, I was helping people. But if I really look at the core of what I was doing it for myself because I enjoyed the lifestyle. I enjoyed people calling me Big Wop. You know what I'm saying? I enjoyed the respect that I had when I walked into a room. I enjoyed the way these dudes kind of, they didn't physically bow down to me, but you know what I mean when I say they bow down to me when I walked in the room. I enjoyed that. You know what I'm saying? And while I was doing it, I knew it was wrong. I was doing it, but I felt that me helping these young boys become better men will make up for the fact that I was doing something that I knew I shouldn't be doing. And we all do that. We know we're doing something we shouldn't be doing, but we're like, well, there's some good can come out of it. The greater good can come out of it. So we just go ahead and do it. And that's what I did. I was playing that game. And I know it's somebody out here right now playing that same game. I know it's somebody watching this video, you playing that same game, know exactly what you're supposed to be doing, know exactly what you're not supposed to be doing, but you're still doing it anyway, hoping your little good deeds that you do every now and again is going to make up for it. But I'm telling you, you know what I'm saying, it's not going to happen. You know what I'm saying? Because I was telling myself that the good from this situation was outweighing the bad. You know what I'm saying? And when in reality, what I was doing, I was telling myself, well, I'm doing it because the good is outweighing the bad. I'm helping these young kids and helping them become better men. So I was rationalizing why I was doing it. And what it was, I was telling myself that the good was outweighing the bad to help myself sleep at night. And that's what we do. We justify the help ourselves sleep at night. That's why the Bible say the heart is the heart is most deceitful. I'm misquoting it, but it says something to the fact that the heart is more the most. God dang it! I can't believe I just quote it all the time. I'm having a brain fart, but it's desperately is most deceitful among all things and desperately wicked. Who can know it? Something like this. But it basically said the heart is the most deceitful thing because when you want to do something in your heart, you'll justify a reason for doing it. And that's what we do. You know what I'm saying? We'll make sacrifices and we use those sacrifices to justify the wrong that we was doing. And that's what the sacrifice do. That's why we so willing to go to 1,000,000 miles and to do something that please God instead of doing the one. And because we justify like, well, Lord, I know you told me to do this thing, travel this 1 mile to do this thing over here, but I just traveled 1,000,000. Yes, I was doing what I wanted to when I was traveling that 1,000,000, but I traveled 1,000,000. Man, that gotta mean something. You see what I'm saying? We used it just right, because that's what I was telling myself. Yes, I'm doing bad, but it's outweighing the good. And when in reality, what I was doing, I was using the good to justify my bad. And that's what you're doing when you are sacrificing instead of being obedient. And that's what Saul was doing. You know what I'm saying? Well, I destroyed everything else, but I kept the best of it, you know what I'm saying, because I kept the best of it so we could sacrifice it to the Lord. No, he was just greedy. Like we talked about on the point last week, he was just greedy and he wanted that loot, and that's why he took it. But he using the oh, well, we're going to do it as a sacrifice. He was using it to justify his wrongdoing. And a lot of us do that. A lot of us do that. We justify our wrongdoing by these little sacrifices we make. But you know what? The Lord don't want them sacrifices. You know what I'm saying? You know, the scariest verse in the Bible, and y'all have heard me quote this before, but one of the scariest verses in the Bible is in Matthew chapter 7, verse 23. You know, in Matthew chapter 7, there's a situation where Jesus is talking to a group of people. You know what I'm saying? He said, Jesus said, and he's talking and he's kind of giving, he said, on that day, many will say to me, and y'all heard me quote this several times before, he said, many will say to me, Lord, Lord, did we not prophesy in your name and cast out demons in your name and do many mighty works in your name? And Jesus is going to respond, get away from me, you doers of iniquity. I never knew you. Oh, could you imagine? You've been going to church every Sunday and putting your little tithe in the plate, and you might crack open your Bible every once in a while. You know what I'm saying? And, you know, you go feed the homeless and you go build wells in Africa, and you do all this stuff, and you get to the heaven, think you're going to get in, and Jesus say, get away from me, you doers of iniquity, I never knew you. Oh. You know how heartbroken I be? I just spent all this time putting these lessons together and spent all this time on here with y'all, you know, running my mouth. And I mean, you look at my YouTube, I got over 250 some videos, and all of them are at least an hour and a half long. You know what I'm saying? That's a lot of time out of my life that I've been doing. And like I said, that's just the time doing the videos. There's at least 2 hours went before the videos. So, man, I do all, and I get there, he's like, get away from me, you doer of iniquity, I never knew you. Oh my goodness, my heart be broke. Oh, and there's going to be a lot of people that's going to hear that. You know what I'm saying? There's going to be a lot of people that's going to hear that, because if you got to really pay attention to that verse. And that's why I use so much. You got to really pay attention to that verse to really kind of decipher what's being said there. If you really pay attention to that verse, because you see, what they was trying to do when they said, Lord, Lord, did I not cast out demons in your name? Did I not prophesy your name? Did I not do many mighty works in your name? See, when they said that, what they was trying to do, they were trying to justify their disobedience by those sacrifices. Yes, it's a sacrifice to go prophesy, because a lot of people ain't gonna like you, especially if you really prophesy the truth. It's a sacrifice to cast out demons. Because we saw this one situation where these guys cast out the demons, and the demons turned around and kicked their butts. The 7 sons of Sceva. You know what I'm saying? So it's a sacrifice to do all these works. You know what I'm saying? It's a sacrifice to do these works. You know what I'm saying? And prophesy and do all this stuff and whatnot. Yes, those are sacrifices. But if you listen to Jesus' response, you can see that they was doing all this other stuff, but they didn't do the one main thing that they were supposed to do they needed to get to heaven, which was be saved. You see what I'm saying? See, a lot of people don't catch that. That's why I'm always using it for a lot of people don't catch that. They did all this other stuff. They cast out demons. They prophesied. They did all these mighty works, but they never got saved. Well, Brother John, how can you say that? Because notice what he said. He said, get away from me, you doers of iniquity. I never knew you. See, he didn't say, I used to know you and I don't know you no more because you went astray. He said, I never knew you. So these people never was really saved. You know what I'm saying? But they doing all this other stuff. And you get that in mind. That's why I said this should touch them out of heart. This one pastor, his name Jack Howes, he said that he's convinced that probably 70% of the people that go to church, I think that's the number you use, 70%, a majority of the people that go to church are not even saved. But yet they go to church every Sunday. They get up every Sunday and go to church. You see what I'm saying? And they do that, and they're not even saved. They haven't even made the decision to do what they need to get into heaven. They haven't even made the decision to accept Jesus Christ as Savior. They did all this other stuff. In other words, they went 1,000,000 miles, but they didn't travel the 1 mile he told them to travel and accept him as Savior. You see what I'm saying? Because if you notice something. And again, I would say you got to pay attention to this verse. Notice what they said. You You know what I'm saying? They said, Lord, Lord, did we not cast out demons and prophesy and do all these mighty works in your name? But you notice they did all this other stuff that the Lord didn't command them to do, because the Lord didn't command nobody to go prophesy. No, there were certain people he called to go prophesy, but he didn't say that as a whole. He didn't demand people to go cast out devils. He didn't demand you to go do all these mighty works. You know what I'm saying? But the one, not one of them said that they did nothing. They was boasting on all this stuff, this work that they had done. They was boasting on all these other things they had done. But you notice not one of them said that they did the things that the Lord commanded them to do. Did you notice that? You see, a lot of people don't catch that. You got, like I said, if you got to really pay attention to that verse to see that, then break it down and really get in it to see what's being said. Just by that conversation, it's a lot being said with those little statements based on what they said and how Jesus responded. You know what I'm saying? Again, they was boasting about all these mighty works they did. We cast out demons and prophesied, but not one of them said, hey, I told others about you. You see what I'm saying? Not one of them said, hey, I've accepted you as my savior. They just said, I cast out these demons, I did all these works. Not one of them said that. Not one of them said, Lord, Lord, did I not accept you as savior? You see what I'm saying? That should be your defense. That's the only thing you should have to say to get to heaven. I accept you as savior. Not one of them said that. So it shows you they weren't saved. Now, one of them said, I went and told others about you, which is what the Lord commanded us to really command us to do. Now, one of them said, I searched the highways and hedges to bring others closer to you. Now, one of them said that. See, and these are things that the Lord told us to do. Now, one of them said, I baptized others in your name. Because again, that was something the Lord said to do. Not one of them said, I live my life in a way that the light in me will shine bright enough for those living in darkness to see. Not one of them said that. And see, these are all things Jesus told us to do. He told us to get saved. He told us to tell others about him. He told us to go to the highways and hedges and compel them to come in. He told us to go out and baptize them in his name. You know what I'm saying? He told us to not put our light on the bucket where it can't shine. Those are the things he told us to do. And not one of them said they did that. But they did cast out demons and prophesy and do all these mighty works. See, they did the sacrificing instead of being obedient. They traveled 1,000,000 miles instead of traveling to one, and that's why they didn't get in. Now, one of them did the things they were commanded to do, but they boasted on doing the things that they wasn't commanded to do. You see what I'm saying? So you see, they traveled 1,000,000 miles to avoid the one. And as you can see, that 1,000,000 miles they traveled got them nowhere. That's the crazy part about it. They traveled 1,000,000 miles and still ended up nowhere because they still ended up being thrown in utter darkness. They might as well not did anything because they was being disobedient. See, they was expecting that, and again, we all do it. We expect these sacrifices we make to make up for the good we do in these sacrifices we make to make up for being disobedient, and it's not going to do that. They traveled 1,000,000 miles and got nowhere. They still end up being cast out to the utter darkness. You see what I'm saying? And we don't realize by trying to do the sacrifices instead of being obedient, it's making our lives miserable. Is that what I said in the beginning, like I was talking about in the beginning? We make our lives hard. We make our life, this world could be simple. It can be easy. It can be pleasant. That's what the Lord built. The Lord built it and designed it to be simple and pleasant. We make it hard. We make it complex because we won't do what we're supposed to be doing every single time. A good example of this. No, talking about this good example. And I thought about like what could be a good Bible example of this. A good Bible example of this is Pharaoh in a situation back in Exodus. I'm gonna turn over to Exodus for a little bit, and I'm gonna show you everything. All them plagues. Because Pharaoh ended up going through 10 plagues before he finally let the people of Israel go. And really, had he just paid attention, had he just obeyed, he would only have to go through 3. You know what I'm saying? He wouldn't have to lose his son. Because the first one, you remember the first one was, the first one was the plague of blood. You remember, first of all, when they was getting into it, Moses came with the staff and threw his staff down and the staff became a snake. So his magician did the same thing. You know what I'm saying? Their staff became a snake. So of course they was, my that ain't nothing special. My magician can do the same thing. So then he's like, all right. So then the second one, the first plague was the plague of blood. And you remember when Moses went down to the river where Pharaoh was at, and he told Aaron to dip his stick in the water and it's gonna become blood. So he did that, and guess what? His magician did the same thing. So he didn't listen. So okay, all right, you know what I'm saying? I can understand that. Then the second one was the plague of frogs. You know what I'm saying? He went down, and y'all told him, let him do, we're gonna make the frogs come up. And you know what I'm saying? So that's what he did, made the frogs come up, but the magician did the same thing. But then the third plague was lice. The third plague, the Lord said, tell Moses to strike the dust with his staff, and the dust would turn to, well, it's in the King James, in the New Living Translation, it says gnats. So that's why I put in my Bible, King James Version, he said that it'd be lice. You know what I'm saying? He said it'd be lice. So Moses and Aaron did just as the Lord had commanded them, and suddenly lice infested the entire land, covering the Egyptians and their animals, and all the dust of the land turned into lice. You know what I'm saying? But Pharaoh's magicians tried to do the same thing with their secret arts, but this time they failed. So now right there, that should have been your like, okay, we get the first two, all right. You know what I'm saying? This one, all right, this got to be something from God. Because they couldn't, and from this point on, they were not able to do the same miracles that Moses was doing. They was not able to imitate the same plagues that Moses was bringing about. You know what I'm saying? So that right there was an indication like, okay, this must be from God, because us and our demon magic, you know what I'm saying? They was on demon time. Us on our demon time, we can't do the same thing. So that should have been, you know what I'm saying? Obvious, like, all right, this is from God. You know what I'm saying? So if you go over we're in chapter 8, if you read chapter 8, Pharaoh's finally started realizing, like, okay, maybe this is from God. Maybe I need to listen. But again, instead of just obeying and let the Israelites go, he tried to make a sacrifice. Because if you read in verse 8, chapter 8, verses 24 through 28, he says this. He says, blah, blah. Now, this was the plague of flies. So this was the flies. This was where the flies was at. And, I hate flies, bro. I hate when like one or two get in my house. I cannot imagine having my house full of flies. I would probably kill myself because that would drive me crazy. So this was right after the plague of flies. And he said, and the Lord did just as he said. There were terrible swarms of flies in Pharaoh's palace and in every home in Egypt. The whole country was thrown into chaos by the flies. So Pharaoh hastily called for Moses and Aaron. All right, go ahead and offer your sacrifices to God, he said. But this is what he say, but do it here in this land. Don't go out into the wilderness. Now, what did God tell him to do? What did God tell him to do? God told him to go out to the wilderness. But Moses replied, that won't do. The Egyptians would detest the sacrifices that we offer to the Lord our God. If we offer them here where they can see us, they will be sure to stone us. We must take a 3-day trip into the wilderness to offer sacrifices to the Lord our God, just as he has commanded us. All right, go ahead, Pharaoh replied. I will let you go offer sacrifice to the Lord your God in the wilderness, but don't go too far away. Now hurry and pray for me. So again, he wanted to make a sacrifice. He wanted Moses to compromise. All right, I let you go, but just don't go too far away. That way I can bring you back. You see what I'm saying? What God was telling him to let the people go, he was like, I'll put you on the leash. And that's basically what he was trying to do. So he was trying to make a sacrifice. He was trying to sacrifice to get the plague away. He was like, all right, I'll let you go, but I'm not going to let you go too far. That's not what God said. That's not being obedient. That's being partial, because he said, go 3 days into the wilderness. Go get away from Egypt. Get as far away from Egypt you can and do this thing. Now, of course, they weren't going to go out there and make sacrifice. The Lord was setting all this up so they can be free of Egypt. You know what I'm saying? But that's what they told Pharaoh. Hey, we need to go make a sacrifice. And I think Pharaoh knew they had no intention of coming back. And that's why I was like, all right, I can't be obedient. He didn't want to let that old lifestyle go. He didn't want to let them slaves go. He didn't want to let that free labor go. Because he knew now he's going to have to work harder. He's going to have to start doing stuff that he didn't want to do. And him and his people have to start doing stuff that they didn't want to do. And they're going to have to start going places they didn't want to go. See, that's what they knew. So that's why he was trying to make a sacrifice instead of just being obedient. So, of course, you know what I'm saying, he prayed for Pharaoh, the flies left, but Pharaoh didn't let him go. So after that moment, after that came the plague of the livestock, where all majority of their livestock were killed. Then there came a plague of boils, where most of the Egyptians had boils covering them from the head to toe. I can only imagine the pain they went through. Then there came the plague of hail, where the hail came and destroyed all their crops and basically just ripped the land apart. You know what I'm saying? So then you fast forward, and so that was 3 additional plagues he had to go through because instead of being obedient, he tried to make a sacrifice. Now, I'll let you go, but you can't go too far. No, the Lord told us to go a distance. We got to go the distance the Lord told us to go. So again, he was trying to make a sacrifice. So now, if you go over to chapter 10, verses 3:11, he did it again. So now, like I said, after that, he went through the plague of the livestock, the plague of the bulls. He went through the plague of hail. So now after the hail, he's starting feeling like, all right, you know what I'm saying? It's getting pretty serious. We got to do something about it. So over in chapter 10, if you look at verses 3-11, it says, so the Lord said he's going to send a plague of locusts. So in verse 3, it says, so Moses and Aaron went to Pharaoh and said, this is what the Lord, the God of the Hebrews, says. How long will you refuse to submit to me? You know what I'm saying? How long will you refuse to obey? Let my people go so they can worship me. If you refuse, watch out. For tomorrow I will cover the whole country with locusts. There will be so many that you won't even be able to see the ground. They will devour everything that escaped the hailstorm, including all the trees in the fields. Excuse me, sorry about that. They will overrun your palaces and the homes of your officials and all the houses of Egypt. Never in the history of Egypt has there been a plague like this one. And with that, Moses turned and walked out. Now, the court officials started getting some wisdom, and the court officials, the court officials now came to Pharaoh and appealed to him. How long will you let these disasters go on? In other words, how long are we going to be disobedient? You know what I'm saying? Why you come to making these little sacrifices? Just let them go. Matter of fact, they said, please let the Israelites go to serve the Lord their God. Don't you realize that Egypt lies in ruins? So I say the same thing to you. Don't you realize about being disobedient? That's why your life is lying in ruins. They finally got it. His advisors got it, but he didn't. So it says, so Moses and Aaron were brought back to Pharaoh. All right, go and serve the Lord your God, he said, but tell me, just whom do you want to take along? Young, old, all of us would go, Moses replied. We will take our sons and daughters and our flocks and our herds, and we must all join together in a festival to the Lord. And Pharaoh retorted, the Lord will certainly need to be with you if you try to take your little ones along. I can see through your wicked intentions. Never. Only the men may go and serve the Lord, for that is what you requested. And Pharaoh threw them out of the palace. So you see, once again, instead of being obedient and just letting them go, he tried to do it. He tried to make another sacrifice. All right, if I let the men go and they do escape, we got the men are gone, but the women and children are still here. We can just use them. You know what I'm saying? We can just, you know what I'm saying, raise them up, and they probably won't be so rebellious. So that's what he's thinking. So again, I sacrifice letting the men escape, but I'm not going to sacrifice, and I'm not going to be obedient and let the women and children escape as well. So once again, he was being disobedient. He tried to make a sacrifice instead of just being obedient. And what happened after that moment? After that moment, the plague of locusts came on and ate everything up. And then they had a plague of darkness that came on. And they said it was so dark that you can put your hand right in front of your face and couldn't even see it. It said it was so, if you read the story of the darkness, and y'all should read that, it's over toward the end of chapter 10, it said it was so dark that you can feel the darkness. That's how thick the darkness was, that you can feel it. You see what I'm saying? And once again, that was something he went through because he refused to just be obedient. And that's the same thing that happens to us. We make these sacrifices. We travel 1,000,000 miles instead of just traveling to one, and we make our life so dark and we make our life so much more complicated instead of just being obedient. So then we see down here toward the end of chapter 10, matter of fact, I'm going to read it for you because it talks about the darkness. Starting in verse 21, he says, Then the Lord said to Moses, lift your hand toward heaven, and a deep and terrifying darkness would descend on the land of Egypt. So Moses lifted his hand toward heaven, and there was deep darkness over the entire land for 3 days. During all that time, the people scarcely moved, for they could not see. But there was light as usual where the people of Israel lived. Then Pharaoh called for Moses. Go and worship the Lord, he said, but let your flocks and your herds stay here, and you can even take your children with you. No, Moses said, we must take our flocks and herds for sacrifices and burnt offerings to the Lord our God. All our property must go with us. Not a hoof can be left behind. We will have to choose our sacrifices for the Lord our God from among these animals, and we won't know which sacrifices we will require until we get there. So the Lord hardened Pharaoh's heart once more, and he would not let them go. Get out of here, Pharaoh shouted at Moses. Don't ever let me see you again. The day you do, you will die. Very well, Moses replied, I'll never see you again. So again, trying to make a sacrifice. All right, I let them go, but we're not gonna let them take their riches with them. You know what I'm saying? We're gonna make them leave their calves and their material things behind, because they ain't gonna go too far if they leave their material things behind. You know what I'm saying? Because the devil knows how attached we are to our material things. You see what I'm saying? That's why the Lord used material things to test us. You know what I'm saying? That's what Moses, the Pharaoh, trying to do. Instead of once again being obedient, he decided, oh, I'm gonna make this sacrifice. And I let them go, but I'm gonna keep all their stuff. Even if they do escape, at least we'll still have all their stuff. We'll have all this stuff. We'll make their stuff ours. And so the land won't be so desolate because we let all these slaves leave. And again, so once again, he hardened his heart and tried to make a sacrifice instead of being obedient. Then what happened next? Y'all know the plague that came after that. That was the death of the firstborn. Lost his firstborn son. And when he lost his firstborn son, then he kicked the Israelites out. But see, he could have avoided the plague. If had he been obedient, he could have avoided the plague of livestock. He could have avoided the plague of boils, the plague of hail. He could have avoided the plague of locusts. He could have avoided the plague of darkness. And he could have avoided the death of his firstborn son. All he had to do was be obedient. And that's what I want y'all to see from these lessons. You know what I'm saying? If you just be obedient, it's so many things in our lives, so much drama in our lives, so much chaos in our lives can be avoided if we just be obedient. If we just do what we know we're supposed to be doing and not do the stuff we know we're not supposed to be doing. Just be obedient. You know what I'm saying? But again, we go and do everything else. You know what I'm saying? We go do everything else instead of doing the one, you know what I'm saying, doing the one thing God told us to do. So you see 3 different times, instead of Pharaoh just being obedient and let the people go, you know what I'm saying, and letting the people go and let everything else go with them, he you know what I'm saying, he tried to make a sacrificial portion. All right, you can go, the men can go, but the women and kids got to stay. All right, the women and kids can go, but the livestock got to stay. All right, you can go, but you can't go too far. So he had 3 different times where he could have avoided so much drama and chaos in his life, but he was trying to send out a sacrificial portion, and that's not going to do. You see what I'm saying? And that's what you got to understand. Making these sacrifices ain't going to help cover up your disobedience. You know what I'm saying? Doing everything he could. He was doing everything he could to avoid just doing what the Lord told him to do, and which was let the people go. Hey, just let the people go. Simply let the people go. They went through the tragedies that they went through. He went and had to lose his firstborn son. You know what I'm saying? Doing everything he could. I had a friend like that from college. This is going to be a little bit off top, but I had a friend like that in college. I love him to death. We're still friends to this day. He was my roommate in my 3rd year of college. His name was Mario. Called him Yo. And in fact, he players, and they called him Weasel. Because he was like that, man. Anything this dude can do to avoid doing work, he would do it. You know what I'm saying? And it's a true story I'll tell you. I'll jump back in the lesson, but it kind of pertaining to what I just thought about it when I was talking about this, avoiding doing work. Because he would do everything like in school, man, everything he could do to avoid doing this work, he did it. So it was this one time, I'll never forget it. There was this one time, we was in the same math class. We had the same math teacher. And instead of studying like we supposed to, he convinced me to go out and party. And that's when we was like really heavy into smoking weed and partying. And we didn't study for this test. Now this test, turns out it was going to be a big part of our grade. And if we didn't pass the test, then we could end up failing the class. So instead of just studying for the test like we should have done, what this fool had to convince me to do, it was like some stuff you see in like one of those movies, like those crazy movies. We broke into the professor's office because he had like because Mario was really skinny. So he had like the offices then, they had like a little window pane over the door that was unlocked. So if you can get up there, you can climb in over this little window pane. So I kid you not, y'all, we waited like late one night, went into the math building, the chemistry building, TSU, and I bent over, he stood on my back and climbed through that window, and we went into this teacher's office, broke into this office, this professor's office to look and see if we could find a test. Because the test gonna be like the next day. It was like the next day or so. So we was hoping he just had him laying on his desk or something. And unfortunately, we still didn't find him. We still ended up making it through the class, but it wasn't, our grades weren't good, But my point is, we did all that breaking into we could have got in trouble. Like, hey, we got called by campus security. Now to look back on it, we was young and dumb then. But now to look back on it, we could have got called by campus security. We could have got kicked out. They could have, charges with breaking and entering. We could have probably went to jail. We made all that extra sacrifice and did all that extra time and trouble when all we had to do was just study like we supposed to. It wouldn't have a problem. You know what I'm saying? And he had another situation he got me in. Because again, he would do anything he could to avoid actually doing work. So somehow he found a class, and it was called Individual Art Problem. It was a high-level art class, and it was for art majors. And it was like a 600-level course, and like I think it was worth like 4 credits. So that's a lot. So if you get an A in a class like that that's worth that many credits and that much of a level, it'll skyrocket your GPA. And we both kind of struggled at the time. So it's only supposed to be for art majors. Somehow, I don't know how he did it, he managed to get around the system, and he signed me, him, and a friend of ours named Martez up. And the teacher was pissed. The teacher was pissed. He's like, y'all not supposed to be in here. You're taking up sponsors for actual art majors. So just so happened, a teacher's name was Dr. Herman. I can't think of his last name, but I think it was Herman. I remember Miss Watts used to call him Herman all the time. He was an avid scuba diver, and he was all about getting black people to scuba dive. Because, black people don't scuba dive. So when the teacher found out we signed up for this class and got pissed about it, Mario's bright idea was, hey, and he told him this, and it worked. He said, only reason why we signed up because we wanted to go scuba diving. We wanted to become scuba divers, and we heard about your scuba diving program, so that's what we want to do. Because the trip, I forgot to explain with the class. So for the class, what you had to do was you had to go to Bermuda and spend spring break in Bermuda and do some kind of project. You spend a whole week in Bermuda, which is out the country, and you had to do some kind of project while you was there and turn in that project when you get back. So Mario told him our project was going to be scuba diving. So when he said that, then Dr. Herman, I can't remember his last name, but we called him Dr. Herman. Dr. Herman was pleased. He's like, oh, you want to do scuba diving? Okay. You know what I'm saying? Because that was his thing. So now we got to go freaking take scuba diving classes. So I had to go and pay to take classes to learn how to scuba dive out in Gallatin. And we did it, got that completed. And then so the teacher told us all we had to do was once we go to Bermuda, get certified, because you're not certified as a scuba diver until you actually go into the ocean. So as long as we went to Bermuda and we did our 2 dives and got certified, then we would get an A in the course. So that's what we did. But look at all this extra stuff we had to do. We had to take scuba diving class. We had to buy scuba diving gear and all that. Instead of just getting in the regular class and doing the work, we did all this extra stuff. We went a whole 1,000,000 miles just to get back to the 1 mile, And the funny part was, so when we got done, we thought all we had to do was get our certification. That was it. Well, the professor said, well, I need y'all to turn something in. So just do me like a little 5-page report and turn it in and talk about your scuba diving experience. He's like, it ain't got to be like all professional, just a little 5. He said, matter of fact, you can put the pictures in and I count the pictures. He said, you put enough pictures in there, heck, they can be your whole report, just pictures. He said, but just turn in something. And don't you know, man, Mario still wouldn't even do that. I turned mine in. I got an A in the class. Mario didn't turn his in. He got a C, and it plummeted his GPA. So again, he went 1,000,000 miles to get back to the 1 mile and still didn't get anywhere. Instead of just doing the work, being obedient, doing the work, he made the sacrifice and still didn't get him anywhere. And again, I say all that to say, and those stories just remind me when I was going through that, that's what we do as Christians. We do that as Christians, and we do that as human beings. We know what God wants us to do. We know the things that God has for us to do. We know what's been commanded. But again, we'll do everything else. We'll do everything God didn't tell us to do just to not do the stuff he told us to do, the main thing we need to do, and then we don't end up getting nowhere because of it. You see what I'm saying? And the irony is, hold on, give me 1 second. Let me get some H2O. And this is the irony about the whole sacrifice game. And this is the irony. And I'm hoping y'all are still here, and I hope y'all are still listening. Because I'm going to show you something that's going to mess you up. The irony with playing this little sacrifice game, or trying to run this little sacrifice game, the irony is this. We do all this stuff, make these sacrifices to try to appease God, to get on God's good side. And the irony of that whole sacrifice situation is God don't even want our sacrifices. Is that not crazy? God don't want our sacrifice. We put all this effort into these sacrifices and doing these sacrifices and going, you know what I'm saying, going as far as even being disobedient to give these sacrifices, but God don't even want them. God don't even want the sacrifices. Well, what you talk about, Brother John? What do you mean, God? He said that we should make these sacrifices. I'm going to tell you, there's 2 spots in the Bible, and there's probably more, but there's 2 spots in the Bible where he say he don't even want the sacrifices. I'm going to take you over to Hosea chapter 6, verses 4 through 6. I'm going to tell you what the Lord say about your sacrifices. He said, O Israel and Judah, What should I do with you? Asked the Lord. For your love vanishes like the morning mist and disappears like dew in the sunlight. I sent my prophets to cut you to pieces. I have slaughtered you with my words, threatening you with death. My judgment will strike you as surely as day follows night. I want you to be merciful. I don't want your sacrifices. I want you to know God. That's more important than burnt offerings. So he said right there, I don't want you to say, that's not, I want you to know me. And the only way you're going to know me is by being obedient to me. The sacrifice, yes, that's cool, but that's not what I want. I want you. I want you to be obedient. That's what he's saying. And then another spot. Because there's one time when he said, matter of fact, because you're so disobedient, he basically said, because you're so disobedient, your sacrifices actually make me sick. If you go over to Isaiah chapter 1, verses 10 through 17, he tells us, he said, that sacrifice make him sick. He said, watch this. He said, listen to the Lord, you leaders of Israel. Listen to the law of our God, people of Israel. You act just like the rulers and people of Sodom and Gomorrah. I am sick of your sacrifices, says the Lord. Don't bring me any more burnt offerings. I don't want the fat from your rams or other animals. I don't want to see the blood from your offerings of bulls and rams and goats. Why do you keep parading through my courts with your worthless sacrifices? See, all these sacrifices we make in the gospel, they're worthless. They're not nothing if you're not doing what he told you to do. He said, the incense you bring me is a stench in my nostrils. Your celebrations of the new moon and the Sabbath day and your special days for fasting, even your most pious meetings, all are sinful and false. I want nothing more to do with them. I hate all your festivals and your sacrifices. I cannot stand the sight of them. You see what I'm saying? That's the irony of this whole thing. We doing all these to make these sacrifices. God said it make him sick. He said, from now on, when you lift up your hands in prayer, I will refuse to look. Even though you offer many prayers, I will not listen, for your hands are covered with the blood of your innocent victims. See? Because they still they making the sacrifices, but they still been disobedient. He said, wash yourself. This is what he want. Wash yourselves and be clean. Let me no longer see your evil deeds. Give up your wicked ways. Learn to do good. Seek justice. Help the oppressed. Defend the orphan. Fight for the rights of widows. In other words, be obedient. Those are things that you do when you're obedient. But we won't do those things, but we'll make all these sacrifices. And what the Lord say? These sacrifices make me sick. I don't want to see them. When I see you, if you out here being disobedient, and you trying to take these sacrifices to the Lord, then guess what? You're just making the Lord sick. He don't want the sacrifices. Because you got to understand something. The sacrifices was never meant to be a way for us to appease God. You know what I'm saying? It was never meant to be. It was never some kind of way, oh, I can make these sacrifices, and these sacrifices really appeasing God. No, those sacrifices was not for the appeasement of the Lord. Those sacrifices was, guess what? To test your obedience. So this is what the sacrifices are for. So, you know what I'm saying? The sacrifice, the whole point of sacrifices was to test your obedience. God just wanted to see if you were willing to be willing to put him first. Over in Matthew 6:33, one of my favorite verses says, seek ye first the kingdom of God and its righteousness, and all the rest of these things shall be added on to you. You see what I'm saying? And that's what God wanted to see. He just wanted to see if you were going to be willing to put him first. You know what I'm saying? Would you be willing to give up that thing that you're so attached to? Whether it be material things or your lifestyle. And most of us failed that test. That's all sacrifices were. It was meant to be a test. I remember when I was reading when Solomon came in to power, whatever, it said he sacrificed something like 1,000 bulls and like 700 rams. That's insane to me. That was cutting up and burning that many animals. Like to have that many animals in one area and just burn them all up. That could have been so much food. That could have supplied someone, but he gave it as a sacrifice. You know what I'm saying? But and again, the Lord blessed him. After that, that's when the Lord went to him and said, "Hey, man, what do you want? You know what I'm saying? What do you want? Like anything, you can ask me anything." And of course, we know the story. Solomon ended up asking for wisdom. You see what I'm saying? And that's what I'm saying. The sacrifice was never meant to be a way for us to appease God. The sacrifices were meant to test our obedience. Do you really think God needs anything from us? You know what I'm saying? You have to think about it. Everything that we give, when you make those sacrifices, everything you give to God is stuff that he gave to you. It's your own stuff. It's his stuff. So you really think that he needs it? He owns the cattle on 1,000 hills. So do you really think he need those sacrifices or want those sacrifices? No, he just want to see if you're going to be obedient. You see what I'm saying? It's the same. I think about it like when I have like Father's Day or my birthday or Christmas, stuff like that. Now here recent last year or so, everybody in the house has been working, so it ain't been the same. But up until about a year or so ago, I used to always tell them, don't give me nothing for Father's Day. Don't give me nothing for Christmas. Don't give me, because at that time I was the only one working. So when they give me a gift, they give me a gift they bought with money that I made. You know what I'm saying? It's like I had to buy my own gift kind of thing. So like, just don't give me nothing. Just leave my money in my pocket. You know what I'm saying? That'll help me pay some bills. You know, now again, my wife, she's been working almost 2 years now. And my daughter, she just started working. Both of my daughters working. And my son, he was working for a little while. So they have been able to buy me stuff out of their own money. But like I said, up until a couple of years ago, they was using my money that I was working hard for to buy my gift. So I just bought my own gift kind of thing. So I told, man, don't go give me nothing. You know, it wasn't me being modest. Oh, I don't need anything. Like, no, just let me keep my money in my pocket. And of course, they wouldn't listen. They still go buy me stuff anyway. But I understand God. Again, I understand that mindset of God. I don't want to sacrifice. All you're doing is giving me my stuff back. That's all you're doing. You know what I'm saying? So I don't want your sacrifice. Do you really think that the Lord wanted Abraham to kill his son after he gave him his son and told him that, hey, the Messiah is going to be born through the bloodline of the son? Do you really think the Lord wanted Abraham to kill his son? No, he didn't want it, but he just wanted to see if he was going to do it. That's why when Abraham went to do it, he said, whoa, Abraham, whoa, calm down. I see now that, you know what I'm saying, you put me first. I see now that, you know what I'm saying, you don't put nothing before me. I just want to see. And that's what we understand. You know what I'm saying? The sacrifices were meant to be a test. And our problem is, unfortunately for us, what we've done is we've let the test become the standard. We've let we've let the sacrifice, which was meant to be a test of our obedience, we let the test become the standards for our reverence to the God. Instead of just being obedient to God and doing the thing that God told us to do, doing the thing God has commanded, we rather make a sacrifice and count that as reverence toward God. We've let the test become the standard. That's why we've gone so astray. That's why the churches are crumbling. That's why, you know what I'm saying, this is the first time in history where a majority of people don't even go to church anymore. Because we've let the sacrifice to go to church, the sacrifice to do these little things. Yeah, it's good to do those things, but we let that become the standard. So that's why you get these fake Christians, they go sit in the church every single Sunday, but they ain't really reading their Bible like they supposed to. They ain't getting the word. They ain't really living like Christ. Because Christ don't judge people. I was talking to a young lady this weekend, and she was saying she wasn't saved because she was a homosexual, and the church was, frowned on her, frowned on her. And I tried to talk to her, share the gospel. Now, she didn't want to get the gospel. Now, I've had several people like that, and I've had several that I've been able to lead to the Lord. You know what I'm saying? But she wasn't one of them. But, you know what I'm saying? That's why you get these fake Christians that go out and judge people and these picket signs and call people murderers and tell people they're going to hell. You know what I'm saying? Because they've been making these sacrifices of going to the church every Sunday, but they're not being obedient to the word. Because the word say treat everybody like you want, like you want to be treated. The word says judge not, lest you be judged yourself. You see what I'm saying? And that's the irony of the whole sacrifice thing. But yet again, we do it all the time. We travel 1,000,000 miles to go do something God didn't tell us to do, instead of traveling 1 mile to do the one thing he told us to do, and wonder why we don't get nowhere. Wonder why we're going to get to heaven and hear, Lord, Lord, did I not? Get away from me. I never knew you. You know what I'm saying? I told you to go get saved. You went and started casting out demons and prophesying and doing all these works. I didn't tell you to do that to get into heaven. I told you to get saved to get into heaven. And it's so many people, when I talk to them when I'm out soul winning, and I'm asking about being, you know, do they think they're going, well, I'm a good person. I give this. I do that. And I say, yes, those are good works. Those are cool. I'm not saying the world don't need that. It helps the world. But are you saved? And a majority of the time, they ain't saved. They depending on their good works. They get them into heaven. They depending on the fact that they went out and fed the poor. They get them into heaven. They depend on the fact they went and dug a well somewhere to get them into heaven. Instead of doing the thing that God told them to get to heaven, which is accept Jesus Christ as your Savior. You see what I'm saying? So if you want to avoid the curses of disobedience, do away with doing the sacrifices instead of obeying. You know what I'm saying? Again, the sacrifice, feeding the homeless and all these stuff that I'm using as examples, you know, building wells and all that, those things are good. It helps the world. But they're not good if you're doing them instead of doing the things that God has told you to do. So do away with doing the sacrifices and just be obedient. You know what I'm saying? Instead of giving money to the church, attend the church. You know what I'm saying? Instead of just giving money to the church, attend the church and get in there and do some work to help it grow. That's what you're commanded to do. That's why the Lord say, not forsaking assembling ourselves together. Now, I remember this one time I was when I worked at this place called Test America. There's a black guy that was, had a cleaning business that worked there. And me and him was talking one day. Matter of fact, he's the one that brought me on conviction about doing my tithe, and I've been tithing ever since. But one of the things he was talking, when we was talking about tithe, he was talking about how he said, he said back in the day, man, he said even the pimps and the prostitutes, they gave tithe. He said that's how big tithe was. That's how big it was. Like even though they didn't go to church, they still gave tithe. And that brought me on a conviction about tithe. But now I'm old, I'm thinking like, man, God would have liked it more if they just stopped prostituting and pimping and went to church. You see what I'm saying? He would have liked it more if they had that they were just obedient instead of making that sacrifice. And that's what we got to understand. You know what I'm saying? Instead of just giving money to the church, go and attend the church. Well, I give money to this, I gave money to the missionaries and all that, but you ain't cracked open your Bible, you ain't been to church, you ain't told one single person about the Lord. You know what I'm saying? You might not even be saved like we were talking about earlier. You see what I'm saying? Instead of just giving money to the church, go attend the church, help it grow. Instead of going and passing out Bibles, read the Bible. There's people that actually go out and pass out Bible, have events where they pass out Bibles, and they've never even read the Bible. That's insane to me. Instead of passing out Bible, read the Bible. You know what I'm saying? Instead of going and feeding the homeless, be sure that they had a bread of life. And that's good. Again, feeding the homeless is good. These examples I'm using, they're good things to do, but they're not good things to do instead of doing what you know you're supposed to be doing. You know what I'm saying? It's good. These sacrifices are not good if it's going to keep you from being obedient. You know what I'm saying? I remember when I was a Boy Scout, we used to do that all the time. We used to go out and feed the homeless. And I can remember we gave out all kind of pancakes and we used certain breakfast. We gave them all kind of pancakes and juice and milk and bacon and eggs and all that stuff. And their stomach was full, but their spirit was empty because we never gave out no tracts. We never gave out the gospel. So what did we really do? Did we really help those people? We really left them in a bad state because what they really needed to be fed, we wasn't giving them, which was the word of God. So again, yes, go and instead of feeding the homeless, be sure they're getting the bread of life. Instead of traveling halfway around the world and go digging wells to bring people water, you know what I'm saying? Make sure they also have the living water. You remember when the woman was at the well and Jesus said, said she was like, give me a drink of, Jesus was like, give me a drink of water. And you know what I'm saying? And she was like, who are you? You know what I'm saying? You're a Hebrew. I can't believe you talking to me because you from Samaria and all that. And you know what I'm saying? And she said, no, and Jesus talking about, and Jesus said something to the fact that, I didn't look this up beforehand, but he said something to the fact that, I got some water there, and he said something about, I got living water. And she was like, well, you know what I'm saying? I got water. Did you drink this water? You never thirst again. And she was like, well, give me some of that water. Is that water better than Abraham, blah, blah, blah? And Jesus was like, you can drink that water from Abraham's well, but if you drink the water that I'm giving you, drink the living water, you'll never thirst again. And that's just like, give me some of that water. And she wasn't getting it. So the Lord like, man, go get your husband. And she said, well, I ain't never been married. She said, I'm not married. He said, that's correct. Because you've been married 5 times. You shacked up with boyfriend number 6. And then of course she went out and told the town like, oh man, I just met this guy. And he told me everything I ever did. And she came back, she ended up getting saved, and everybody in the town got saved. So even though she went to a well, they end up giving them living water. But people will go all over to Africa, build wells, give people water. Again, those are good. I'm not saying those are bad things. But don't just go over there and build these wells and go to countries and build houses and huts and give people a place to stay, and they still don't know the Lord. Make sure you're going over there. The purpose of you going over there should be to share the gospel. You can build the houses and the wells while you're sharing the gospel. But a lot of these mission trips, their whole point of going over there is just to build a well and the shelters, and hopefully maybe they may be able to give somebody the gospel. You know what I'm saying? That's literally traveling 1,000,000 miles. You know what I'm saying? That's literally traveling 1,000,000 miles to do something that the Lord didn't tell you to do, instead of just traveling 1 mile and doing the things that the Lord wants you to do. You see what I'm saying? And that's what you got to understand. When you're out here making sacrifices, trying to appease the Lord, that's all you're doing. You're traveling 1,000,000 miles to do something the Lord said not to do, instead of just traveling the 1 and do the 1 mile to do what the Lord said to do. You know what I'm saying? You're doing making all these sacrifices instead of just being obedient. And we got to understand the Lord likes obedience over sacrifice. You know what I'm saying? So again, I'm going to end it with this. I told y'all I'm going to do this one point tonight. Making sacrifice is not bad or wrong. You know what I'm saying? Make a sacrifice. I know these examples, these are good things that people do. I'm not saying don't do them. I'm just saying make sure you're being obedient, getting the gospel out there as well. Making sacrifices is not bad or wrong, but it shouldn't be the standard. You know what I'm saying? Obedience should be the standard. So these sacrifices will not cancel your disobedience. You know what I'm saying? Only thing that's going to cancel your disobedience is not being disobedient and being obedient, because that's what the Lord really wants. He wants you to be obedient, and he'd rather have that obedience over sacrifices. So point number 14, again, I really want to take my time with this because this is something I dealt with. I know y'all are probably dealing with as well. Logan, you said you needed that. Hey, I hope this helped you out, brother, because we got to understand our sacrifices is not going to outweigh. We got to understand our sacrifices is not going to cancel out our disobedience. If we're being disobedient, doing stuff we know we're not supposed to be doing, going over there and building these wells and feeding the homes, all that, it's not going to cancel that out. You still may get to heaven and hear, be like, Lord, did I not go build wells and did I not go feed the homeless and did I not cast out these demons? And the Lord will say, get away from me, you do us of iniquity. I never do you. I never knew you. Why? Because you spent your whole life giving sacrifices instead of being obedient. That's it, y'all. Man, I hope y'all enjoyed that. Man, I hate I couldn't get this to y'all yesterday, but it looked like there's a few people here tonight, so I hope the people that would have got it yesterday still was able to get it tonight. And I hope this helped y'all. Logan, you said you need to hear this message, so I hope this helped you. I hope I was able to do it some justice. And I was really nervous about putting this together because it was so near and dear to my heart. I'm like, man, Lord, please let your spirit work on me so I can do this some justice, because they need to really understand this, because the majority of people I know, including myself, have done this or are doing this. And I want you to see how important it is to understand those sacrifices not going to cover up their disobedience. It's much better to just be obedient. So with that being said, go ahead and finish my ended announcement as always. I hope y'all been enjoying this series. As of now, Lord willing, next Monday be back. We're gonna go to the next part. Gonna be part 10. We're gonna get into some more stuff on obedience, disobedience, and how important it is, and how much it puts you at a disadvantage. But if there's anything else in particular that you'd like me to cover in a story I haven't covered already, or something you want me to discuss I haven't already discussed, please inbox me, send me a pigeon, whatever you need to do. Reach out to me and let me know, and I will see if I can work that into my lesson plan. But like I said, as of now, if I don't hear from anybody or something really important will come up, Lord willing, next Monday at 7 o'clock, be back here, and we're going to go to the next part of this lesson. Keep sharing the videos, telling people about the videos as always. I appreciate y'all, man. The views has been going up. And I'm hoping not just because I'm so popular, I'm hoping it's because people are getting help. And y'all are sharing this video like, man, you need to hear this dude, because this dude is really bringing some wisdoms. And if you just listen to him, he'll really, help you get closer to the Lord. I'm praying that's why you're doing it. I hope it ain't just because y'all can sit here and laugh at my bald head shining the whole time. So please keep doing that. I appreciate y'all, the ones that are out doing that. I appreciate the new people that have come on. I love you all, and I'm hoping these messages are helping y'all. But keep sharing the videos, telling other people about the videos. And of course, if you're not 100% sure when you get to go through that door called death, you get to see the Lord on the other side, please reach out to me. You know what I'm saying? You don't want to get up there and hear that, get away from me, you doers of iniquity, I never knew you. Because again, a lot of people try to use that to say people lose their salvation. They had to be church people because they was casting out demons and doing all these works. No, they didn't lose their salvation. They never was saved. He said, I never knew you. And you don't want to hear that. Scary words in the Bible, the scary words in existence, to hear Jesus say, get away from me, I never knew you. So don't be that guy. Please, if you don't know for sure you're going to heaven when you go through the door called death, reach out to me and let me know. I will set up some time to go over the gospel with you and try to help you make the decision. And of course, if you got any kind of spiritual counseling, any kind of biblical questions or anything, just need to talk event, reach out to me again. Let me know. I'll schedule some time with you, and I'll try to do the best I can to share whatever little wisdom the Lord has given me with you and hopefully help you with your situation. And as always, last but not least, if you want to catch some of this, because all the sermons I do end up being series because I just talk too much. But it's just the Lord just giving me so much on them, and I want to make sure y'all get what the Lord has given me. So if you want to go catch your old sermon, like I said, this is part 9 of this series. So if you just watching this first one, you're like, man, that was interesting, I want to see what the other ones, the easiest way is to go to my YouTube page, God's Servant / Lost Sheep Ministries. Make sure you like the videos and subscribe and do those kind of things. so you can be alerted whenever I put a new video on there. I always put them on maybe the Sunday after I do them. So I'm doing this one tonight, and this Sunday they'll be on my page. Or you can also scroll up and down my Facebook page, but I get tagged and stuff all the time, so it's a lot more difficult. It's a lot more work to get to them. It's much easier to go to my YouTube page. So again, thank y'all for joining me tonight. Appreciate y'all for being here. Again, I know it's not my normal night. I still had a decent crowd, so I appreciate y'all for being here. Apologize about yesterday, but hopefully this lesson tonight made up for it, and it was really worth the wait. I know it did. Like I said, it touched my heart, and I hope it touched y'all's. And if you one of those one out here playing these games, making these sacrifices instead of being obedient, you better get your stuff together, because you don't want to hear that, Lord. You don't want to be that guy saying, Lord, Lord, and you don't want to hear that, I never knew you. But with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and pray and get out of here. Dear Lord and Heavenly Father, thank you so much for this wonderful lesson. Thank you so much for giving us the opportunity to get into this word. Thank you for giving us this word, Lord, and helping it guide our steps, Lord. This whole point of you giving us this word is to help us be obedient. Help us know the things that you will have us to do, and help us to know the things that you don't want us to do, so we'll have a close walk with you, Lord. And it's so funny that we have it in our hands, and we read it and we hear it all the time, and yet we still don't do it. And we just spend our lives and all our time and effort doing everything else but doing the things that you tell us to do, and then we wonder why we don't seem to get nowhere. You know, we'll travel 1,000,000 miles just instead of just traveling that 1 mile and being obedient, Lord. I pray you help the people see this tonight. I pray you bring their hearts on the conviction, those that are participating in this game, and help them see that it's not going to end well. It's not going to get them nowhere if they're making the sacrifices without being obedient first, Lord. I pray you help them see that, and I pray I did this lesson some justice and bringing out this truth to help people have a close relationship with you. So now, Lord, I ask as we finish up here tonight that you keep your hand upon us to help us make it through another week. Thank you for the previous week, and I pray you send your spirit down upon us to help us make it, to guide us through another week, Lord. I pray you give us your power, love, and wisdom over any problem that arise that may keep us from doing whatever you have us to do over the next week until we can join here again. I pray you continue to be with the Lost Sheep Ministry, be with me and my family in a mighty way, in a church in a mighty way, and give us the encouragement and enthusiasm we need to continue to go forth doing this work you have for us to do. And I pray you be with all my ministry members, Lord. Be a wall of protection around them, give them your power, love, and wisdom over any problem that may arise in their lives that may keep them from doing the work you have for them to do, and give them the guidance they need so they may go forth doing the work you have them to do. And please help them understand how important it is to be obedient instead of just being out there making these sacrifices, Lord. I pray you be with all those, the faithful public servants, all those that are in military, law enforcement, rescue services, medical service. Be a wall of protection around them as they serve. Help them see that no matter how far away from home they are, they're never too far away from you, and give them the wisdom to make the right decisions, especially when it comes to life and death situations, and give them the wisdom to make the right decision, not to abuse the authority they've been granted over those that are supposed to be serving and protecting. And we ask you to just continue to watch over all your servants, Lord. Give us all the encouragement we need to continue to go forth doing this work, no matter what the world may say or the numbers in our ministry may say. Use this family, use this ministry, use this church in a mighty way to do our part to honor and glorify your name, actually build your kingdom, and turn the hearts of this world back to you. We thank you so much for this lesson. I pray these words go out and not return in vain, and touch the hearts of those that need to hear it, so they may want to come under conviction and want to have a closer relationship with you by being obedient and not making the sacrifices. We love you so very much. Thank you for all you've done and given. And we say this prayer in your wonderful Son, Jesus' name. Amen. All right, man. Appreciate y'all for joining me tonight again. I apologize about yesterday. Stuff came up, but I'm here tonight. Thank y'all for joining me tonight. I hope this lesson helped y'all, and I hope that you would return next Monday at 7, Lord willing. If nothing pops up, I pray you return next Monday at 7, and we can go through and we can do it all again. But until then, I love you all. Continue to pray for me. I continue to pray for y'all. And remember to always, no matter what's going on, always watch your back and pray. Until next time, I love you all. Peace.